So just following up on a couple of points you just raised on this point, with regard to what was done in Europe and the decision-making there, obviously, as you correctly say, we cannot second-guess them. Some of that, and that goes to one of the questions I have, is your presumptions on interest rates. According to your baseline, the American people will be paying about $4.3 trillion in net interest over the next 10 years, based upon, I think it's on page 30 or 31 of the charts and what have you, as interest rates. But obviously, if those interest rates are skewed in a different direction, that number goes up significantly, right?
Yes, Congressman, no doubt.
What's that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And right now we're at the benefit of the fact that we are the reserve currency of the world, and that is able to keep it down. But we saw what occurred in the private sector, how the spreads changed in '08, basically overnight for these various companies that initially had very good rates. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And didn't we see the exact same thing that occurred over in Europe with the pigs, with Portugal and Italy and Greece especially, that their interest rates were somewhat favorable before, but basically in an overnight, figuratively overnight period of time, the spreads expanded beyond anyone's projections. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's right. I mean, I'm not sure anyone's projection, but certainly in a way that surprised many observers. Yes, I think a significant risk in our projections is that interest rates will rise more rapidly than we have projected. I should say there's risk on the other side, too. Our projection of interest rates lies well above the rates that are implicit in current financial market transactions. When one can essentially back out of the Treasury yield curve the market's predictions of interest rates over the second half of the decade.
They're certainly not above historical averages for the United States. All we have to go back is look at the Carter years, and we would see your rates, those rates off the charts, and that would put this number at a multiple of this $4.3 trillion. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's right.
So within our lifetime, we have seen interest rates in this country dramatically above where they are, and we could, well,
yes, Congressman.
Right again. Which may give, and the final point on this, credence to the argument that whether we not overly aggressive contraction, but an aggressive contraction as far as spending might be the prudent direction that this Congress should go in.
Yes, I think, and we've said in other testimonies as well, that there is this trade-off.
Right, I understand that.
And
let me just go back at something. Earlier this past month, last month, bill came out as committee, 3581, the Budget and Accountability Transparency Act, right? Which, among other things, changes the credit reform methodology. You're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Back in June, CBO testified before the committee, quote, by including a market-based risk premium, fair value estimates provide a more comprehensive measure of costs which recognizes that financial risk that the government assumes when it's issuing guarantees is more costly to the taxpayers than FCR estimates suggest. In other words, Fair County suggests, hey, look at that. Do you agree?
Yes, Congressman. We believe that the fair value method of accounting for federal credit transactions provides a more comprehensive measure of their true cost.
Okay. Moving on to another topic that we've had in discussion here, and that's the FHA bailout. You still can hear me, Ken?
I can still hear you.
Good deal. Okay. Very quickly then, on the FHA bailout, there's a possibility, it says on reports out of there, the chances that future net losses on the current outstanding portfolio could exceed current capital resources at close to 50%, which could necessitate a taxpayer bailout for them. Currently, the numbers show that ratio is around 400 to 1, which obviously makes everything else we've been seeing on Wall Street basically pale by comparison. Have you all examined this? Have you examined the budgetary implications if we have to go through A, a bailout for FHA, and have you looked at that? And B, what would the implications be to the debt limit? And C, a quick answer on that one is, can you give a projection as to the next debt limit increase?
You're correct, Congressman, that the reserves that FHA holds are below the statutory minimum. But there will be no bailout required in the sense that the Congress does not need to take any action to deal with this low level of reserves. If more people default on FHA guaranteed mortgages than FHA has reserves for, then like other federal credit programs, there will be what's called a credit reestimate. There will be an assessment of a higher cost that will be recorded in the budget, but will not require the Congress to take any explicit action. This is the case for all federal credit programs. What it will mean, of course, is that if the FHA doesn't get money back or pays money out that it thought that it wouldn't have to, then that will affect future government borrowing.
So the estimates that we have seen by analysis that we may have to pony up another $50 to $150 billion if that 2% capital level, which is now 0.25 basis points, goes to zero, and they will not have the money actually to make the payments, that we would not actually have to come up with the cash to pay that? Is it correct?
Depends what you mean by whether you have to pony up. What I was saying was that automatically in the budget, without congressional action,
right, it will take
there will be so there's no explicit, there will be no vote about whether to bail out the fund.
But my question was, have you seen what that impact would be on the budget deficit?
Yes, so our baseline projection includes our assessment of what the cost will be for FHA going forward, and I think that is incorporated in the projections that we've shown.